Hello, everyone, and I'm here with an article that I just happened to see today, posted, I guess, 5 hours ago based on what it's saying here. And you know what? I agree with this. It says, is the right to vegan food a human right? Ontario firefighter argues that it is. First of all, I love that it's a firefighter, a guy who has a strong job that has to be done, physically tasking. He's not a protein deficient, you know, featherweight, as people might want to think. So let's just see what this article has to say. It says an Ontario firefighter alleges his human rights were violated when he was not provided sufficient vegan food while battling a massive blaze in British Columbia. Adam Knopf says he has filed a complaint with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario against his employer, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, over his treatment and subsequent suspension while fighting a fire near Williams Lake, BC in 2017. I'm reading this article for the first time just because I saw the heading. I'm like, let me do a video about this. Anyway, the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry discriminated against me and failed to accommodate my sincerely held ethical beliefs when it failed to provide me with food that accommodated my personal commitment to ethical veganism and then disciplined me and suspended me because I attempted to assert my right to accommodation of that sincerely held ethical belief, he wrote in his application to the tribunal. Now, to backtrack here, I believe it was probably 2 or 3 years ago that veganism essentially was kind of covered under ethical/religious beliefs as a human rights kind of scenario. And in that case, I think he absolutely has a right, especially working for an Ontario ministry. If you're vegan and you're watching this, you know how frustrating it is, whether it's at the company Christmas party, whether it's like I do film work on sets, the breakfast that they bring out, they always have egg, cheese, sausage, and a lot of times I have to forego even eating. You go to a banquet hall, there are a few times I've been where there are actual vegan options that are decent, that I have to be somewhat amazed. Most of the times it's vegetarian, you can't get the proper food. We suffer in this regard, and yes, we have chosen this, but we have an ethical belief that we do not want to participate in the use, abuse, slaughter of innocent animals and beings. So, let me just continue. The ministry, in its response, denied Knopf's allegations of discrimination and human rights violations. The case centers on whether veganism is a form of creed, the definition of which was expanded by the Human Rights Tribunal in 2015 to include non-secular beliefs. Okay, so it was 4 years ago. But yeah, if this is in the Human Rights Tribunal, then it should be covered. And while other people don't understand what it is to be an ethical vegan, we understand. It's akin to us not wanting to be part of, let's say someone was being held as a slave, and we could benefit from the profits or the products created by the slave, as was an industry that people did actually do that exact thing. But we say, well, no, I don't want to participate in that. That goes against a belief. And while everyone else around you says, what's the big deal? We have that belief at our core. So if this is a belief recognized by the human rights and the Canadian government, then should it not extend to food? How hard is it to offer some decent plant-based options of potatoes, oatmeal, beans, rice, etc.? Okay, so Knopf, based in Kenora, Ontario, has worked with the ministry since 2008 and is often dispatched outside the province. He filed the complaint based on the grounds that his creed was not accommodated. I'm an ethical vegan in that I only follow a vegan diet, but extend the philosophy of non-consumption of animal products to all other areas of my life, he wrote. I do not think that humans have the moral right to oppress other beings or to cause them pain and suffering. I'm just giving this guy a little ovation right here. Knopf, now 40, arrived in northern BC on July 15, 2017, and was one of about 1,000 firefighters battling a massive forest fire. Working 14 to 16 hours per day, about 10,000 homes were evacuated in Williams Lake, and the only store open was a Tim Hortons that the police were helping run, he wrote in his complaint. He said the ministry had known a long time ago about his dietary constraints, and he also had filled out standard food information form on the trip. On some days during my deployment to Williams Lake, I was not provided with any food that was vegan or not otherwise contaminated with animal products. Yes, love that word, contaminated. No, thank you, I don't want it. And therefore he was forced to go hungry. Now, again, other people don't understand, but if other people all think it's okay to be, abusing humans as slaves, and you're the one who says, hey, no, you look like the crazy one. But, we have to stand up for what we believe in. On July 16, he ate salad and side dishes. The next day he wrote there's no vegan meals, so he ate plain bagels and coffee at Tim Hortons. The next day after that he was given beans, oatmeal, and fruit. After working 16-hour days for 4 days with inadequate nutrition, I began to feel physically ill and mentally groggy. Until that point I had been trying to push through my hunger and exhaustion, sustaining myself on nuts and fruits. He complained to the supervisor, who said he'd work on it, the documents say. On July 20th he wrote, the only source of protein in my dinner was a single black bean. Wow. And the next 2 days he had inadequate dinners. It's just not that hard. And this is the kind of thing where people have to start considering those who don't eat what they eat. Someone commented on a video that, their family said, why can't you just be normal? And they don't get it. But the point is, people are always saying, oh, veganism is like a religion. And the only way it's really like a religion is that we have this belief, but this belief is to do no harm to the best of our ability. And to just go against that, it's a tough thing. And if you're working for the government, shouldn't they now, especially, well, maybe now the new food guide, with that be able to say, you know what, let's provide some things that do not have animal products that, guess what, even non-vegans can eat. Like, it's not just vegans who can eat rice and beans. Anyway, okay. Things came to a head. Okay, wait here. So he asked for the personnel to buy tofu during one of their service runs. He got 3 blocks of tofu, gave it to the camp chef, and never saw it again. Things came to a head on July 23rd when he was looking forward to a big barbecue dinner where vegan burgers would be served. I mean, it's pretty easy to find some of this stuff, but he wrote the chef handled beef patties before touching the vegan patties with the same gloved hands. Knopf said he swore at the chef, who swore back. His supervisor gave him a warning, he wrote. No one seemed to take my ethical beliefs seriously. The next day at dinner, he was served a stir-fry with no protein. He was promised beans the following day, he wrote. He took his plate to his supervisor and asked him if he could see any protein on the plate. The supervisor offered him protein bars. I mean, these are people you can tell who are probably completely annoyed with him. And I know if you're not vegan and you're watching this, you might not get it. But it is frustrating to know that with the amount of food out there that can easily be veganized and how easy it is to accommodate people, think about it as a food allergy. If I'm allergic to shellfish, and if it means not preparing shellfish and preparing something else I can eat, it's not that hard. So he said he was upset and told them no, he didn't want the protein bars. And he says, I know I should not have sworn, but I was starving, exhausted, humiliated, and defeated. I had reached my breaking point. I mean, this is a guy who honestly, maybe other people would have eaten the food that was there and felt, you know what, you have no other choice. So I really commend him. But the real breaking point came the next day when he picked up his lunch, where he alleged half of the food was non-vegan. He poured it out in front of the food staff and said, this is not vegan. That's when his supervisor sent him home. The ministry says Knopf was sent home and suspended 3 days without pay due to his inappropriate, insubordinate, unprofessional, and aggressive behavior. He was also banned from fighting fires outside the province for the remainder of 2017 and all of 2018. The ministry also alleges Knopf threw the non-vegan food at staff, which he denies. Base camp was difficult for all involved and was trying to feed 1,000 firefighters with the closest towns with open stores hours away. It also argues that Knopf's vegan status is sincerely held lifestyle choice, but does not meet the legal definition of creed. But again, this changed in Ontario or Canada, and I think it's great that we had this change. It further argues that it supported the employee and accommodated his food restrictions as if it were a component of his health needs or part of a recognized creed. Well, you know what? He can argue it is part of his health needs because we all know saturated fat, cholesterol, these are the things that lead people to have ill health. And guess what? A friend of mine just died in his sleep a few weeks ago in his 40s, heart attack, his blood pressure had been on the rise, and so forth. His family had heart disease. You know what? Now he's gone. So no, people don't want to have to eat these things if A, they don't believe in it ethically, and B, also their health they're worried about. So Camille Lapchuk, the executive director of the advocacy group Animal Justice, said it hopes to intervene in the case because veganism in the workplace isn't limited to NOF. Ethical veganism has never been ruled a form of creed, Labchuk said. This is a test case, but it's important to have a clear statement from the tribunal. I think that's fantastic, and I look forward to hearing how this goes. I think it's time, especially with the new Canadian Food Guide, as I said, that people start changing how they serve food when it comes to hospitals, schools, etc. Let's have some clear, proper plant-based options, because guess what? Non-vegans can eat that too. And you know what? If you introduce that stuff to non-vegans, they might be like, oh wow, this stir fry with some tofu and it was actually really delicious. So let's stop pretending that non-vegans can't eat vegan food, because vegan food is plants and we all eat plants, or we should all be eating plants. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Might be a lot of hate to this if I have non-vegans watching, but this is an important first step, and I think it's definitely something that organizations need to get on board with. Things are changing. A lot more people want to go plant-based or vegan, and let's have the options out there to support that. All right, guys, that's all for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.